Hello, everybody, and welcome to this ValuesJam deep dive conversation into the wonderful topic of love. We've got a brilliant bunch of people here today to do that. And John, could I ask you, please, as a person that operates in this space and knows a fair bit about it, to introduce love?
Thank you, Alan. And yes, it's nice to see some LinkedIn friends here live, and excited to share love with all of you today. Love changes the world, and today is going to be a great example of how we share love with every soul we meet. It only takes a few seconds to show our love to others. And the results are compounding, whether we see it in that moment or not. Our love is carried with the individual soul or group of souls, and we know the effect of showing and sharing our love is carried with those souls. So this event, thank you, Alan, inspired me to write a poem that I want to share with you as we kick it off today. And the poem is titled Love as an Element. Think of love as an element of your soul. Earth, water, air, fire, love. You cannot exist without this element. Your soul will not grow without love. Your soul dries up without love. Your soul suffocates without love. Your soul is dark without love. This one element, love, is the basis of life. I am love. So thank you, Alan.
Wow. Thank you, John. What a great start. And I just want to remind you of a couple of the points from when we were talking about the style of this session a little bit earlier. The way that I found most helpful to understand this is imagine that we are not on Zoom, that we are together in a space, and imagine that we're in a circle of chairs with no table in the middle. And now the reason this is important is because what I'd like you to do is to, when you hear somebody say something, please don't think of it as coming from them. Think of it as being in the center of our circle. And similarly, when you say something, please resist the temptation to direct it at anybody in particular. Just put it into the center of the circle. And then one other thing is that in these sessions, unlike our normal day-to-day conversations, silence is welcome. So please don't feel any sense of urgency to speak, any necessity to speak. It's fine to be quiet. And when you're ready to say something, feel free. And then the final one, before I ask you the first question, when you hear something, resist the temptation to respond immediately. Just ask yourself, how are you feeling about what you just heard? And why is that? And then when you're ready, you can make a statement or a comment or a question. So is everybody set? Anybody got any questions before we start? Okay, well, let's go. So this is it. The first question. What are the essential ingredients of love in all its forms?
I suggest that to me it's a question of connection. Love is something that happens between people. And love to me is actually my feeling for another person and another person feeling for me. So it's connection, it's a conversation between different people, and really that's a connection to me. And actually the knowledge that the other person always has something good in it, him or herself. And I wanted to talk to that goodness and that yeah, and to feel that. Thank you.
I went towards trust and trusting in the power of love and what it can do. And so if it's not welcomed, we still produce it and trust in that power of love.
Came to mind lots of elements, but one would be caring compassion. And that's caring compassion for the other, for others. And it's also caring compassion for ourselves. And bringing that together into action that supports and uplifts.
Building on this idea of connection, when I heard that and then it was followed by connection with people, I found myself thinking about how you can experience love when it's other things as well, whether it be art or music or nature or whatever, and how that experience for me is a physical one that I can feel my heart getting bigger kind of thing almost, you know, in these sorts of situations. So that's what came through for me.
I would like to add, love for me has something like sharing and appreciating. We do appreciate others. So if we appreciate their presence, it's more than enough for them to feel that. So love is more about appreciating and sharing for each other. So that's what I could define.
Love to me is also something. Sorry.
Serve others in whatever way they need to be served.
Jenny, could you ask Jean to speak up a bit, because I didn't quite catch that, or maybe if you can repeat it if that's not possible.
She said about serving others in the way that they need or want to be served and need to be served.
I was thinking about it as just a big, huge source of energy, like how you can meet someone and say, I love that person, or it's the thing that's going to save us. Like in every story, it's like you just count on love winning. Even in the worst cases, you think love is going to win.
Mhm. To me, love also is a question of looking around, not just talking to one person or so. It's a question of being curious of how people have it around you, and really have it, to see if there are people who need empathy, and to be willing actually to take part in that empathy for the people who need empathy.
I'm thinking there's something about how love can be given freely, actually, and how perhaps in society where, I don't know why, but there seems to be a tendency to feel that you can't do that before it's either earned or deserved or whatever it is, rather than starting with giving it. Why not?
Mm.
I did have the thought of it's unlimited. You can't you can't give away all your love. It just fills back up again. And so, you could spend a lifetime giving love, but it'll always be, it'll always come back and fill you back up again.
Mm.
I don't know if it's because I'm sitting next to a teacher, but I thought about love being a teacher.
Mm.
And there's so many lessons that we can learn, whether it's, there's a lot of sadness, there's a lot of happiness, there's all kinds of emotions and lessons that can come along through love. And if we're open to learning the lessons, it can really enrich our lives. Sometimes it would be easier to run from the lessons and try to ignore them. But there's something lost if we do that.
And the comment about love being limitless and, you give it and it tops up, I'm thinking to take it even a step further, actually, in that love begets love begets love. So not only does it refill, but it actually creates where there maybe wasn't before, or maybe it was hidden or something like that. So it replenishes and it creates at the same time.
Mm.
I think that also the love that you have for yourself too, because if you don't fill up your own reserves, then you can't be sharing the kind of love that you could be.
Mm. And to me, that means that you're a subject in love. That is not an object. You're a subject, that you are actually doing the love as a subject, not just waiting for love.
Love is not only reciprocation. It can be sometimes, as Sir said, it can be hidden. So it can be for one person or for one sided direction. So somewhat I felt that it is not, it has multi-directional idea. So it is one-sided as well. Sometimes it is also two ways. So I could come across like it could have multi-directional presence in our lives.
Yeah.
Also, love makes us feel safe because we love, so the space is safe. So safety is something that comes along with love, the comfort and safety that we can feel for ourselves.
I'd add value and worth to that as well. So love, like has been said, giving a sense of those basic needs at one level, but then also maybe at the same time or maybe at different times, serving those higher level needs of fulfillment, value, worth.
John's beautiful poem that started us off. Love really is an essential element, essential, I believe, to our well-being, whether it's personally, within our families, our communities, within our countries, and, you know, around the world, and for the world. Just imagine, well, that gets us back into a Beatles song that we kind of, different Beatles song, but just a world where there was just an abundance of love. How much more simple it would be, how much would take away so much fear. And you mentioned security, it'd be an entirely different world in the best of ways.
That sounds wonderful to me, that entirely different world, and it's making me think, why wouldn't we want that? And you know, if that is so desirable, why don't we do it?
I appreciate the love fighters. There are people who are actually fighting to spread love around the world. In the end, it's peace, to try to get peace in the world. And I admire really those people who actually have the courage and the skill to actually fight very hard for love.
It's another ingredient is I don't know why the word versatility comes to mind, because I'm thinking about how you might love your partner versus how you love your family members versus how you love your sports team versus how you love that really cold beer on a hot day versus that beautiful artwork or the Beatles song. And they're all hugely different in a way, and yet we use the same word.
And I'll say that energy from the circle that was just in there, not an individual, but the circle. I love that, Alan. Reminded me of the Greek have, you know, 4 definitions of love, and agape is that unconditional. And so that's when I think of love, I think of agape, because there's no limits to that. It's just love.
And also there's like the flip side of love too, right? Like why we don't have a world that embraces love is because it's terrifying and scary and it hurts when you don't, when love goes bad, and your heart is literally a muscle and like it can get broken and it has to heal again. And so it's not like it's a little scary. People don't want to be, a lot of people don't want to be vulnerable.
Just hearing that made me think of how love in many ways is very similar to a young child, in that for me, love seems to be very pure, innocent, vulnerable, just like a young child. And in fact, I just want to on our briefing, it said if things come into your mind, just share them. So that's just happened to me. I played ValuesJam with my grandson Jacob just before he was 5, and he chose 3 cards that were his favorite. We went through a process. It doesn't really matter about that. So love, kindness, and beauty were his 3 favorite cards. And I said to him, well, let's just take one at random, love. Can you explain what that is? And he looked at me straight in the eye and he said, no, I can't. So I said, okay, that's fine. Maybe just tell me what you do for people that you love. And he said, I give them a hug.
I think that's an important thing. Just to be very near a person and body like very much. I really agree, Ellen.
Love makes also a person strong. It is a strength and support that can be extended. So it is some sort of a system which could help us to, stand unified and understand each other. So I feel that it is a strength.
Mom asked me to share in my louder voice about how love can ripple through generations and make impacts in generations, in a principal that she knew, a school principal in 1926, who loved art, and he wanted to share that love with the children in his school. So he started an art collection that grew through the years. He happened to be her principal when she was in junior high school. And then years later, that collection started falling into disrepair. And so she and some others started a foundation to repair that. And that foundation continues to support the love of art and showcase artists and teach art classes and give scholarships to art students to help them continue in their artwork. And so what was started almost 100 years ago, I'm doing my math right, continues on and ripples, and that love just keeps going on.
Could I add one more thing? As a teacher, I wanted the children to learn to love everything that was of beauty. And the art in the school was one thing that I tried to teach them to value, to honor, to appreciate the beautiful scenery, the beautiful people who were depicted in the art. And in visiting the schools now where that art rests, I can feel the love that the children have for these wonderful, wonderful paintings.
Another ingredient of love is how it can last a lifetime. So that story, yeah, I imagine children all through those decades will have remembered those things for the rest of their life, just as we remember places that we loved being in, or tastes that we loved, or sounds that we loved, or people that we loved. It's extremely long lasting.
To me, it's also very important to use love to people who do bad things. We don't like the thing they do, but behind that bad behavior, there is a person, that you can love, and you have to actually not just put that person away. You should use your love to understand that person did the wrong thing, but that's only one little part of the person. The person has other things, and it's actually very important to love that person behind the bad things that person did.
That point reminds me of in Zulu, when a young person does something wrong, it's very different than the way we treat it in our developed world, where our justice system sets about punishing them for what they've done. In Zulu tradition, what happens is the young person is made to stand in the middle of a circle of elders, and the elders all recount stories of when that same person did wonderful things.
I think it's very important. In Sweden, we have a system right now where they put a lot of people in prisons, and they don't discuss what happens after the prison system when these people come out. And you have to use love in those situations. You have to actually make them come back to our system. And I'm very, very angry about the system of actually using hate as a system against people who has been hating, instead of actually trying to motivate those people to come back. And you can talk to them, and you can understand them, and you can actually motivate them to become ordinary people again. I really agree with you, Ellen.
From this, something that clicked in my mind is love can encourage, and also it can lead to growth. So something that for underprivileged or people who have been suffering in our societies, we can share those love, and we can help them to be in the right path. So as rightly said, love can make certain powerful statements in societies and communities for many to change as well as live their best in their lives.
This conversation, excuse me, this conversation has made me think, where did we learn love? Where originally, what's that original love that we learned and grew and was watered and, manifested in us? And as we reflect today, this moment is like, yeah. So I'm looking at lots of love and people that enjoy love and understand love and know that love grows and, want to continue doing that. But it's, what was that original seed that was planted in us that said, okay, let's grow love? Where'd that come from? What teacher, if I may say, taught us that?
I would like to add a little story that happened long, long ago. My husband and I had 2 horses, and the horses loved him. Me, not so much. So as we were walking in the field one day, one of them gently nudged me aside so he could be by the one he loved. So it's not just human beings, it's animals have love, and they show it often not the way I would want them to show.
On a similar note, I saw a video just this week, actually. It was of a toddler on a beach, I think, with a dog. And the toddler was kind of on its hands and knees and then stood up and started to take its first steps. And the dog just stood next to it so that the toddler could put its hand down on the dog's shoulder to keep balance. And then the dog stood still and the toddler took a couple of paces, and then the dog moved forward again to be by the toddler's side just to make it easier. It was great. I've just processed what we were hearing earlier about prisons, and also what we were hearing about, well, where did it all come from? Who taught us? And those two went together because some people have done terrible, terrible things. And whilst it's easy to agree to the principle that you can treat them with love, I can understand in practice how that is really, really tough. Because what if somebody's murdered your child? Are you really going to show them love? I'm not sure I'm good enough to do that.
Then in this case, I think love can be selective sometimes, because it's not going to work the same way as shared by you, sir, because it is difficult sometimes. Yes, love can bond, love can create, love can be shared, but still it is a subjective case of application where it can be selective.
And then that last two thoughts that sparked in my head was, yeah, as humans, we're human. And so what are those a limit? That's a limit. There's a limit. Love doesn't have that. So kind of in those situations, not saying that it's going to happen, right? Because we're human, so our reaction is human. But if we believe and lead with love, then it's love doing the action. And we observe that and follow that lead of love. Because it is where we every day we wake up, guess what? We're human still. We didn't change. We're still human. But love is bigger than that. Love is bigger than humanity. It is a a changing factor of leading with that love first, and then we follow. Helps in those very hard situations.
As I said about love being a part of connection, I think to me it's so very important that in the society we have systems that create connections, that we create places where people can actually meet. And I'm very, very angry about a place in Stockholm, a big theme, but people can't meet there. They don't feel right being there. I want the capitals, the cities everywhere to create situations where people actually can connect instead of feeling lonely and so on. So you should have places where people yeah, that's what I think. Thank you.
There's a connection there about how love, albeit powerful, doesn't exist in a vacuum and is affected by systems and constructs and environments that are designed. So I guess thinking about the field and thinking about the Zulus, it's this thing about you can design to replenish and flourish and encourage love, or you can design something actually to destroy it, or maybe this is what happens most of the time, is that you can design something without an intention to create the right environment for love, and by not paying attention to it, you actually create an environment that makes it harder for it to exist.
I just thought of this about making it hard to exist. I have an older brother who, for lots of reasons that I won't tell you today, he'd sort of given up on his life. He was living in a cottage in Mendocino, California, and he had an alcohol problem. And I am not joking when I say that a beautiful blonde woman found him in the cabin. I don't know how. He got married for the first time at 60. He's sober, and they spend their lives like, I mean, they've been married maybe 2 or 3 years now. When I see them, I just can't believe it. I mean, if my brother who is not in a great place can find fairy tale love in a cottage out of nowhere. And they have this extraordinary life now, and he's in AA, and wherever they go to AA meetings. And anyway, it really, sometimes even when you don't create the situation, it will find you.
Thank you, Francesco. And I get inspired that when you're walking around, you shouldn't just look for beautiful places. You should look for love, seeing people who actually are in love, and get inspired by seeing them being so very nice to each other. So instead of looking at the houses, look at the people, and look at the people who are actually in love, and you will be inspired. Thank you.
I found myself thinking about all of the different settings in which we can choose to express love. And I came to workplace. And, you know, I remember when I was in the corporate world, people don't use that word. I don't know whether they're scared to use it or whatever it is, but it is not used in the workplace generally. And yet the workplace is just another place for people to be together. So that's really weird.
I worked with teams and team building, and I agree with Alan in saying that in order to create love in a working group, you have to take out the respect and make everyone be clear about what they are, the different way of helping the team to go further. And if everyone in the group find that the other persons are different from me, but they are actually doing things for us together, I think you could get respect in the group, and that respect will get into the love of the group if you find that I am respected and I want to respect the others.
Probably I feel that this sort of love that comes with respect is in most locations I have observed and I have been is with younger ones. If they really connect with you, and if they feel that they are comforted and they are being in safe zone to learn or for whatever occasion, so they share that love that comes out of respect, as said. So respect does make things easier for us to celebrate love in group settings. And I have seen in my cultural participations where I have been guiding children, they have shared their love. It used to be initially very formal and respectful, as we all know, but gradually that turns into that, yeah, we love each other, and teacher, we love you, and all. So yeah, the respect pays way to create love in group settings.
And just listening to that reminded me of when I was telling you about Jacob earlier. Maybe you were thinking, oh, what a lovely little boy. So here's another story to balance things up. He asked for a chocolate cookie. This is some months ago. And his dad said to him, no, you're not going to have one now because, you know, you're going to have your dinner soon and don't want to spoil your dinner. And he said to him, so his dad shared this with me. He said, Jacob looked at me and he said, Daddy, if you don't give me a chocolate cookie, I won't love you anymore.
I have to know how the story ends.
That was it. His dad was just so astonished. Oh, and his dad, the way his dad rationalized it was, I think he's learning how to negotiate.
And did the cookie stay in the box or did the cookie go with Jacob?
Cookie stayed in the box. And actually, I think that's probably a really great note to start to bring our Values Jam deep dive to a conclusion. So what I'd invite you to do, please, because it's Valentine's Day tomorrow, and that's a celebration of love in some way. And so what I'd like you to do is just think back on the exploration that we've just had around love and share what is it that you're encouraged to do differently that you can either do tomorrow or you can make the first step towards doing tomorrow. So just think on what you've heard, what's landed with you, and what are you encouraged to do differently that you're going to start or finish tomorrow in connection with love. And anybody who's ready to go, just do it.
I would say it's a bigger observation of love around. The story of the horse is great. Thomas, you had said something, I can't quite put my finger on it now, but it's that observing, you know, and seeing the bigger picture of love as well, right? Because it's, you know, again, humanistic, we get egos and centered and okay, hey, I'm providing love, right? That's great, but let's see it all around us and pull it in, right? Let's pull it in. Let's oh my gosh, and then tell somebody that. It's like, you know what? You don't know me, but you just showed an incredible love in a small way or a big way. And you know, that's so for me is that, okay, let me step back a little bit with my eyes and put my head on a swivel and say, okay, look at all the love. Here's all the examples of love around me.
Thanks, John. And if I remember, Thomas was talking about how he was encouraging people to look at people and see when love is being expressed rather than looking at the buildings or the architecture, for instance.
Yeah. Well, I love buildings, but okay. And chocolate chip cookies, but we'll keep this another story.
Who's next?
For me, I think about amplifying you know, the saying, I want to love more than I fear. And I do think I speak for me, that it's important to be intentional about love. And you know, we have 24 hours in a day. How are we going to fill it? Are we going to fill it with, you know, am I going to fill it with streaming a whole series in a week? Or am I going to be intentional about creating time and space to show love be loved, be loved. And I think love can also take a lot of courage. And particularly at this time with some very, very deep concerns about our world. And here for me in the US, our country, I really want to love more than I fear and stand up for love.
Thanks, Jenny.
I feel that I would like to be more open to express as well as to see its new possibilities, its presence around, because so far we have been limiting it in different definition that we own from our own perceptions. So I would like to see from different dimensions that it exists, as today many of us have shared how the love really exists in their own world and how they have felt it. So I would like to sense it more, feel it more, and express it more, as I have been a little closed off. So I would like to be a little more expressive so that we live love. That's what I felt. Thank you.
Love that, Aishwarya. And can I ask you, how are you going to take your first baby step towards that tomorrow? Is there any opportunity that you already know you might have?
That would be my family,
Okay.
with whom I'm planning some special moments. And it would be my friends who have supported me. And yeah, these are some small stuffs that I'm planning. And I have some younger ones in my community, gated community where we live. So I'll be sharing some little sweets and sharing some moments with them. So that is something that I have planned in a very simple and, in a realistic way for me tomorrow.
Hmm. And I'm hearing actually what you're describing is that because when you decide to let's call it perform the task, right, giving sweets, sometimes what can happen is that you forget the intention that was behind it, and you fall into the just here's some sweets. Whereas I'm hearing from you that there's going to be a real connection between that and intention to show love through giving the sweets, which is different.
True, but they are very young, and they are just 5 year old. They are in my same floor, and for whatever small project works or whatever they have in their subjects, they do come to me and they share their friendship. And for me, that friendship is love, and they share their love in very different ways. Each and every child is, like, unique, and for me, defining love from them is very different. So that's the reason I thought of sharing some sort of sweets from my part, whether they take it in the same way or whether they are taking it, oh, she's just sharing. They'll be probably asking me, is it your birthday, auntie? So I'll be like, no, it's not my birthday, but I would like to share sweets with you because I love you. So this is something that I'm intending to do. So let us see how they react.
Yeah, let's see. So I think we've got Francesca, Thomas, and Jean to go.
Yeah. Well, I was talking about before about looking for people who are in love and being inspired by that. I got the other idea to look for people who are not in love, lonely people in the bus or such. And I would like to do more, going to people who look about sad and being more, trying to connect to them and supporting them. That's what I think I would do tomorrow, Alan. That's what I'm saying. to actually
Great.
create love by actually connecting and making that people understand that I love them and I want them to be happy, and I will give them support or talk that will help them.
I'm sure you're going to have a great day tomorrow, Thomas.
I'm not sure. I have a complicated relationship with Valentine's Day. So I think instead of being a little cynical like I might be, I will try to embrace Valentine's Day in a positive way.
So, Francesca, are you a Star Wars fan at all?
Yeah.
So, is it Star Wars? Yoda, is Yoda in? No.
Yeah, Star Wars.
Yeah. So you know the quote by Yoda?
Which one?
Do or do not. There is no try.
Do. I will do. I won't say one sarcastic thing. I won't roll my eyes once.
Oh no, come on. Like John says, we're human, right? So that's allowed. And Jean, have you got anything to share that you're encouraged to do tomorrow about love as a result of this conversation?
You know, sometimes doing the kind thing means that you let that person learn how to deal with life that has come their way, or whether I need to step in and give a helping hand. Sometimes that's hard to decide. You don't want to stop them from progressing, learning, growing by helping too much.
Brilliant, Jean. And actually, this is a bit spooky. Francesca, I'm going to put you on the spot. You can tell us a story, I think, about a conversation that you've had recently over afternoon tea about balance.
So I met with an older woman who just lost her husband after many 50 some years. And we were talking about what is the balance between letting her children help her and asking her children for help and asking her children not to help her. And it was just a really interesting conversation about when you get to a certain age and your children want to help you, but you want your independence, and when is too much help, when is not enough help, and having those conversations.
Yeah, so it's this repetition of this theme about it's not always easy to let people have their space, and it's a real fine balance, isn't it? So I've got two. One is very similar to John's, I think. I'd written down to wear my love eyes, to be really open-eyed, to see it when it's there, rather than walk by. And then the other one is I'm going to be more brave to use the word. I've recognized that I don't actually use the word that much. And I don't mean to just use it flippantly, but I think there are occasions when I could use the word, and for whatever reason I don't. So I'm going to make a conscious effort to do that more. So thank you so much for this exploration of love. I mean, there's no way it could have not been a good one with a word like that. John, thank you for setting us off with that wonderful poem. Thank you all for listening to the guidelines. And I think this is probably the Values Jam deep dive that a group of people have really stuck to it more than others. And I know that it's not that easy because it's not the way we're used to having a conversation. So I really appreciate that. And I guess I have to say in conclusion that I've just loved this Values Jam.
That is perfect.
Thanks, everybody.
Yes, thank you, Alan, so much. Francesca, you took the picture?
Yeah, I sent it to Alan. I sent it to you because I don't have everyone's email. So
Brilliant. Okay.
Will
Yeah,
you?
if you can send it out, we'll use that for the all for
Yeah.
love. Yeah.
And also, John, could you share your poem?
I can, and I was actually thinking if I had that picture, I'll do a post with a poem.
Well, we haven't finished recording yet, so would we like to hear John's read his poem one more time?
I would.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Okay. So the title is Love as an Element. Think of love as an element of your soul. Earth, water, air, fire, love. You cannot exist without this element. Your soul will not grow without love. Your soul dries up without love. Your soul suffocates without love. Your soul is dark without love. This one element, love, is the basis for life. I am love.
Brilliant.
Oh,
Beautiful.
Thank you,
guys.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.